Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Loft. It's so wonderful to see a full room of smiling faces. I still got, yeah, there it is. Thank you for coming out tonight. Could I ask you folks to just take a moment to give a big round of applause for Ashley and Colby and the chef down in the kitchen for all the work they're doing. Thank you, guys. We can't do this without them, that's for sure. And somebody else we can't do this without is Chris Miga. He's in the back here. He's doing all our sound tonight. Thank you, Chris. And I'm Bob. I'm one of the co-founders of Hermit Woods Winery. And how many of you are coming to a show for the very first time here in the Loft? Oh, good. We have a lot of new folks. Fantastic. Welcome. And thank all the rest of you for continuing to support us. We really appreciate it. We need your support to keep this thing going. For those of you who are new, and for those of you who have been here before, bear with me for a moment while I fill everybody in. I like to give a little background as to how we came to be here. And it all started many, many, many moons ago. And you are ready for a long story now. No, I know you came here to hear music, so I'll keep it short. Myself and two partners, Ken Hardcastle and Chuck Lawrence, we started a hobby of making wine together for about 6 or 7 years, and that hobby got wildly out of control. Wildly. So I came along and I said, hey guys, what do you think? We take this commercial? And they said, sure, as long as we can convert your master bedroom into a tasting room so we can keep our costs down. So that's what we did. And I told my wife if she went along with this crazy idea that I would fill her entire basement up with wine. It didn't take any more than that. We were moving furniture shortly thereafter, and I have to give much thanks to my wife, who's sitting right over here, Geraldine, because she's supported us on this long journey. Thank you, Geraldine. So we grew our winery out of my home for 3 years, and then we moved that operation here to Meredith in 2014 and have been growing the business here ever since. And we've come a long way since those early days in the master bedroom. We now have a full kitchen and dinner service, as you see, and we started our music venue sometime around 2022. And to give you some background on this, I visited a place called Pittman's Freight Room. How many of you have heard that? Yes, a few of you, always a few. It was a great venue. It is unfortunately no longer in existence, but I got to see, for the very first time, I got to have the experience of a listening room. And it blew me away. An opportunity to really hear and appreciate music like I had never really had the opportunity before. It felt not only like an opportunity for me to really gain an understanding and an appreciation for the music I was listening to, it felt like an opportunity for the musicians to really have a relationship with me and the audience, and really that's what it's about. So this was such a special experience for me. Fast forward to 2017, and I realized that this space up here, which at the time was just being used for storage, had 14-foot ceilings, or the potential to have 14-foot ceilings. And it's at that moment that a light bulb went off in my head, and I said, we need to make this a listening room. I contacted the guy who organized the Pittman show, John Lorenz, and we worked together along with a lot of other really talented people over the next 5 years, and we built this room and put this together as our first listening room, and opened to the public for the first time in May of 22. Since we opened in 22, we've had over 160 shows on this stage, and thank you. And I promise you, if you folks will keep coming and keep buying tickets and appreciating the great music that we bring here, I will bring music to this stage for the rest of my life, which I'm really hoping is a very long time. So I hope you'll keep coming out to see some shows. Thank you. And I know you didn't come out here to hear me talk, so I'm going to move right along and get the band up here pretty soon. So first I want to tell you there's some great upcoming shows. Next week we have Troy Millette and The Fire Below. This guy reached out to me out of Vermont, and The first time I opened the link and I was like, huh, who's this guy? Just another upstart in Vermont. But no, this guy was really on it. I started listening to some of his music, and he's got a great show. So if you're around next Thursday, Troy Millette and The Fire Below. The Thursday after that, May 22nd, Wendy Knotson Quartet. I haven't heard Wendy live before, but her quartet has been here before in some form or another. Great players. It'll be a jazz quartet. Wendy's an amazing singer from what I've heard of her music, and so she'll be here on the 22nd. It's a jazz quartet, and then songwriter roundup. If you're not familiar, every last Wednesday of the month, Katie Dobbins brings singer-songwriters from all over the New England area, and actually far beyond. Last month, we had a gentleman from California on our stage. So we bring songwriters from all over the country, actually, and it's a great opportunity to learn about the music that the artists are performing, to hear the stories behind the songs, and then they'll perform the songs for you. So that's the Songwriter Roundup, last Wednesday of every month. You can count on it. And then on June 5th, we have Congregation X. And I don't have a lot of background on them. I did hear their music. I'm quite confident it's going to be a great show. If you Google Congregation X, or you go to our website, you can hear some examples of their music, and I hope you have an opportunity to come out and see them on June 5th. And that's enough of that. This is a couple things I want to say. This is a listening room, so I want to ask, if you have your phone on you, please make sure that your phone is on silence so we don't get any calls from our relatives while we're having a show. And also I want to say, if you want to learn about all the future shows coming up, hermitwoods.com/music. We have all the music right now booked out to July, but I will soon have all the shows booked out to the end of the year, till the end of December. So if you want to know what's coming up, go to the website. Just by being here tonight, you have supported us, and you're supporting the wonderful musicians that are about to take the stage. But if you really enjoy the show tonight and you'd like to support further, there's a couple ways you can do that. First of all, on this table over here, we have some lovely merch. You can take these artists' music home with you tonight if you'd like to purchase some of their music. And if you'd like to offer them a tip, in addition to the ticket price, we have a tip jar over there for all you old-fashioned folks who like cash. And for you folks who like the more modern way of moving money around, these folks have a Patreon page, and their Patreon link is over there, so you can donate through their Patreon listing. So a couple ways you can support the artist after the show if you like. But again, we really appreciate you being here. That's enough support if that's all you've got for tonight, and we'll be happy with that. So thank you. So, without further ado, I want to start with, the name Cantrip is an Old Scots word meaning charm, magic, spell, or piece of mischief. And it aptly describes the unexpected twists and turns in their musical arrangements. Likewise, the compelling potency of their musicianship. Swirling, broader pipes, raging fiddle, thunderous guitar, and three rich voices blend to create a sound energetic enough to tear the roof off. So please welcome Dan Houghton on pipes, whistle, flutes, guitar. I'm not even going to try and say that, and vocals. Come on up. Welcome. What is that instrument I'm trying to read? Bozuki? Bozuki? All right. And then Jon Bews, fiddle and vocals. Welcome, Jon. Alasdair White on the fiddle, right over here. And last but not least, Eric McDonald on guitar, mandolin, that other instrument, and vocals. Enjoy the show, folks.
Thanks very much, folks. We should really update that biog. We wrote that a long time ago when everything was new, so now all of the twists and turns are completely expected, and we know exactly where they are.
At least by us.
At least by us. Yeah. But we'll try and pull the, distract, redirect, so that it looks like they're all. Sorry, we're just waiting for the conductor to come in. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I trust that you will forgive us for launching straight into a set of tunes there before telling you what we were about to do to you. So what we did to you was a set of reels. The first one is from Cape Breton Island up in the Maritimes. It was composed by a fellow by the name of Ryan J. McNeil, who was a piper amongst other things, and he was called Ryan J. McNeil to differentiate him from Ryan A. McNeil, Ryan B. McNeil, C, D, etc. As there are more of them than there are entries in the Manhattan phone book. Which is a trick statement because the Manhattan phone book doesn't exist anymore. It's a tune called The Rector at the Fèis, which for those of you who are unfamiliar with kind of Gaelic culture, a fèis is not a thing that swims around in lakes, rivers and streams, but it's a festival where people get together and speak Gaelic, they speak Gaelic, and they sing in Gaelic and drink in Gaelic, and fall over and pass out in Gaelic and wake up the next day and do it again. It's great fun. This particular fèis in question happened to be graced by the presence of a rector, you know, a holy man. So not surprisingly, Ryan called it the rector at the fèis. What did we do after that? We played the Mullach and Caberfé. Then a tune which, I think it's a Cape Breton version of a tune very popular in the Highlands, at least given the name, which is longer than the tune itself. It's called it's Commandation the Hínig and Keeper and Kinlahoa, or the lassies of Kinlahoa don't give a toss for the local shepherds. And we finished off with the Farmer's Daughter, I believe. And what are we going to do now? Have we thought that far ahead?
I certainly hadn't. You'll have to excuse me. I've been in the country for about 20 hours. I'm currently trying to remember what the next set is going to be. It's going to be jigs is what it's going to be. It's wonderful.
What's a jig, John?
It's a tune. Wheesht you. The first of these tunes is a tune that I wrote fairly recently. It is appropriately enough called The New Jig, which is going to work absolutely great until I write another one. We'll follow that with a tune by a lovely fiddle player from the Orkney Isles, just off the north of Scotland. The fiddle player in question is called Jennifer Wrigley, and the tune in question is called Miss Sarah McFadgen. Sarah's the fiddle and banjo player for a band called the Poozies, who are very, very good. If you don't know them, listen to them. Yeah, okay, the next one's an old pipe tune, Perth John Joseph. And the last tune in the set is Pun of the Night, for my money. We're peaking early, ladies and gentlemen, in the wordplay. We'll finish up this set with a jig called Last Tango in Harris.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're going to do something a little different now, and we're going to sing you a song. Jon actually told us a story not too long ago about a gig he did in Edinburgh with another band, where he showed up and the gig was billed as music and song. So
It's an important distinction, I feel.
So with that in mind, here's a song. And this is a very old song. It's a traditional ballad. How many of you are familiar with traditional music and Scottish music and the kind of the music we're playing? Yes, I know you guys are. Yeah? Great. Well, for those of you who aren't, much of the music that we're playing is new, but is rooted in something old, so in old forms. This is a traditional music, which means it's something that's been passed down. And so some of the music that we play is very, very old.
Although it's technically defined as the traditional period, isn't actually that old. It's only as old as the definition, which came around in probably the 19th century. Before that, it was just like
Music.
or happy music, or party music, or kids music.
But now we call it traditional music. Thank you, Dan.
Sure, yeah.
Dan is a high school teacher, so.
Well, it used to be, anyway.
Or used to be, yeah. You'd see why. Anyway, we're going to sing this very old song, this traditional song for you called Bra Sailing. Bra is a Scots word that is anything that's great or wonderful. I learned this song from the singing of a man named Tony Cuff. Tony Cuff was a wonderful Scottish musician. One of the bands he's well known for was called Ossian, which was a very important Scottish band. And so I like to say I'm a walking Tony Cuff cover band, and this will be the first Tony Cuff song of the evening. So here you are, Bra Sailing. There came a letter yesterday, our ship it sails and morn. Alas, cried my bonny lass, that ever I were born, and it's bra sailing on the sea when wind and weather's fair. But it's better being in my love's arms. I wish that I were there. So when he came to her farmhouse at 12 o'clock at noon, the lassie being proud-hearted, she would not let him in, and it's bra sailing on the sea when wind and weather's fair. But it's better being in my love's arms. I wish that I were there. So she's taken the ring from her pocket. It cost her shillings 9, saying, take this ring, my bonny lad, for I have changed
changed my mind. Then he's taken the ring from his pocket. It cost him guineas 3, saying, take this ring, my bonny lass, and never think well of me. Now it's raw, drinking Glasgow beer. It's better drinking wine, but it's best when I'm in my love's arms, where I've been many's the time. And it's raw, sailing on the sea when wind and weather's fair, but it's better being in my love's arms. I wish that I were there. And it's raw, sailing on the sea when wind and weather's fair, but it's better being in my love's arms. I wish that I were there.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Should be worth pointing out, you know, they say that, you know, how they say that history is written by the winners, right? I don't think that's true of folk music.
Yeah, I kind of misled you there, telling you all about how good and wonderful everything was going to be, right?
I think the actual expression is history is written by the victors.
Oh, the victors.
Two brothers called Victor.
They've been at it for a while. so
Very
they have.
prolific, very prolific, yeah. We've got 2 hornpipes here. What are hornpipes? I hear you cry, wailing and gnashing your teeth, perhaps. We play a few different types of tunes. So the names of these, you know, the types of tunes are very specific. So we had jigs before. Those are faster dance tunes in 6/8 time. 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. Reels go 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. And hornpipes are also in 4/4. And they are kind of, well, you might encounter somebody that tells you hornpipes a swingy dance tune in 4/4. But that doesn't account for the ones that aren't swingy, really. So that's problem number 1. And then, you know, sometimes the hornpipe might not be in 4/4. It might be in 3/2, or it might be in 2/2, or something else. So that's problem number 2. And then problem number 3, you know, the hornpipes very often in dubba 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 dee dum bum bum, but that doesn't account for the ones that end dubba dubba dee dubba dum bum bum. Problem number 4. Littered with problems. The land of hornpipes is littered with bad ideas. So so we've got 2 hornpipes here, which are actually quite swingy, and they're very nice tunes. Not always the case for hornpipes. That's, I think, well, hornpipes started out, as you might expect. They're often associated with kind of naval goings-on and what happens at sea.
English naughty behaviour.
Indeed, yes, what happens at sea is best left to sailors, I think. But they were very, very popular in the north of England, kind of, and that's kind of how they started gaining in popularity. There's a very notable exponent called James Hill.
Who was originally from Broughty Ferry.
Is that right?
Yeah,
There you go. There you are.
From Dundee. And then he
All
moved.
kinds of trivia tonight.
Nice, yeah. That point goes to Team A in the corner over there. Note that they passed me earlier on.
So, yes, James Hill was a very notable hornpipe exponent at the end of the 18th, beginning of the 19th century, and people would flock from miles around to hear him play hornpipes. They didn't really have streaming or any other form of entertainment at the time, so that was what was going on. We're going out for a nice hornpipe. Might I suggest a pairing of perhaps a crisp white with this next couple of tunes. The Shooting Star and Web Culture. Hope you enjoy them.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. So if you'll cast your mind back to the distinction drawn earlier on between music and song, I'm going to underline that for you now by singing you a song. It's a song from, it is definitely in the tradition, but it's a recent song in the tradition. It's written by a fella named Dave Goulder, who lives up just north of Inverness. And now this song of Dave's, honestly, there's no good way to put this. It concerns the subject of a curse. And not just any curse. Just one of those really awkward ones that just you can't get rid of. I'm sure you all know the experience fine. You've tried dish soap, it's not working. You've oven cleaner, no. Laundry detergent, no. LSD is not working. Nothing works. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Dave has your answer for you, and it is the opinion of Dave's experience, frankly, that the best way to get rid of those really stubborn, hard to shift curses is just to pass them on to somebody else. It's not a pleasant approach, I will grant you, but the name of the song is "In a Most Unpleasant Way, Sir."
So everything is wrong with the bouzouki. No one can pronounce the name, and they're never in tune.
On the subject of curses. Summer rain, I found myself one day, sir, and I met a young man with a bird on his hand, who this to me did say, sir. This bird, you see, has been with me since the 23rd of May, sir. In a most unpleasant way, sir. While I looked at the bird on the young man's hand, and the bird looked back at me, sir. 'Twas a vulture plane from the hills of Spain, I could so clearly see, sir. I fear he's waiting here for you to pass away, sir. And all the while the rain came down in a most unpleasant way, sir. Well, the young man shook his head and cried, "Whatever shall I do, sir?" To me quite plain to see that I should give this bird to you, sir. I answered no and turned to go, but something made me stay, sir. And then the bird was sitting on my arm in a most unpleasant way, sir. So here I've stood upon this spot for many's the night and day, sir. For who would tend my feathered friend till you came by this way, sir? And now the birds to you transferred, I can no longer stay, sir, for it hurts to see you look at me in that most unpleasant way, sir. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, folks. We're going to continue with some more tunes, another instrumental thing here. First tune's very, very old. Very, very old. Very, very, very old. Very, very old. And itself, it's a variant of an even older tune. So that's very, 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 very old. And the tune in question, well, it's a variant on a tune called the Reel of Tulloch, or the Tulloch, or Tulloch Gorum. And you find that very old tunes have little families, kind of. You know, the tune will kind of morph and it'll kind of vary from region to region, and then gradually it'll turn into another tune over time and distance, really.
Is that at the point where it can no longer breed with itself and produce offspring?
So, yeah. So, I was going to go with a kind of physics route there, but the biology works as well. So, so this tune's called Mary Gray, and it's one of the variants of this kind of progenitor of a lot of other different tunes. And then we follow that with a very new tune that I wrote, and I named it after a mondegreen. Haven't anyone ever heard of a mondegreen before? Mondegreen is a good word, it's a good expression. Mondegreen is a misheard lyric. So, you know, like, you had a good example the other day, Dan. What was it?
Oh, that CCR song, There's a Bathroom on the Right.
Yeah, so something like that. There's bathroom on the right. So this one here, the term mondegreen actually comes from a very old folk song, and the folk song is the Bonnie Earl of Murray, and it's got a line in it where it's they've slain the Earl of Murray and laid him on the green. Okay, what the folk song collector heard and notated in the annals of history was they've slain the Earl of Murray and Lady Mondegreen. So this Lady Mondegreen appeared out of thin air, and now she's kind of up there with the Tooth Fairy and Father Christmas and things like that. So now she comes down your chimney in the middle of the night, steals all your teeth. So that's, watch out for her. So it's Lady Mondegreen for you. So this Mondegreen was...
Warning to all your children.
we were playing at a festival, and this other band was singing a beautiful song, a very heartfelt love song, called "Fall on My Knees." So the subject of this, the guy singing this song, saying, "Fall on my knees, to beg for your love kind of thing, What I heard was follow my knees, which is less romantic.
But far more practical when you come
Far
back
more
down to it.
practical, yes. And it depends on your knees as well, ladies and gentlemen. So this tune's called Follow My Knees.
I'm the only one of us who's actually showing knee tonight.
Yeah. Very risque of you, Dan.
If you do want to follow our knees, Bob did mention our Patreon as well. So
There's a whole, depending on how much you contribute per month, there's a whole page devoted to their knees.
The knee tier.
And,
So
on the page. You have to pay to find out.
That's the first time anybody's ever asked us that question.
what were you hoping for? Neither answer's good, really. There. So that's the first two tunes, and then there's a great tune from the Isle of Lewis, which is where I'm from, called Dr. McInnes's Fancy. That is the fancy belonging to Dr. McInnes, not Dr. McInnes is fancy, although he may well have been.
Thank you very much. Don't pay attention to it, it's just dying a slow death. Likes to make a drama of it. It looks like I am now the song monkey in the cage being poked with the sticks. So I'm going to sing as a song which is... you want this cap out on the 5th fret? No.
I don't remember. I'll figure it out.
Okay. Eric and I are about to switch instruments here, which is... Playing somebody else's instrument is a bit like wearing somebody else's undies. It covers all the right bits, but it just never seems quite right. So we're going to sing a song from the Outer Hebrides in the aforementioned Gaelic language, which is still spoken out in the Isles and in certain pockets on the mainland, and actually, oddly enough, much more heavily in Glasgow and Edinburgh in some ways. It's the language that spread into, well, I don't know if it spread into Scotland. It's hard to say. It's a complicated, long story. It doesn't matter. The song comes from the Isle of North Uist, and it concerns a battle that was fought in like 1437 or something like that. Basically, there were a bunch of MacLeods who had come over from Harris, the Isle of Harris, which is really kind of just the bottom of Lewis. They'd come over to visit the McDonalds of North Uist with the intent of going home with some of the McDonald's cattle. The McDonalds didn't really like this idea, so they got together a posse, as we would now call it, and they went and just kicked 9 colours of crap out of the MacLeods and sort of sent the leftovers floating back to Harris. But in the skirmish, their young chief, the young MacDonald chief, managed to get himself shot in the side with an arrow, kind of like in Deliverance. Jon Voight's character, not Ned Beatty, different story there. That didn't happen at this battle. But anyway, so they grabbed their young chief and dragged him off to a black house where his foster mother and various other women attempted to put him back together and stitch him up. And it said that they extemporized this song as they were, putting his bits back on and plucking the shrapnel out of him and all that sort of thing. So it talks about, it's in Gaelic, so if you don't understand it, it's not you, it's us. Unless there is anyone here who speaks Gaelic. Anyone? Any takers? I see £5. £5 going once, going no. Okay, forget it. So it talks about what a fab fella this guy is and how crud the world would be if he ever went away. And it talks about yeah, well, that's what happens when the Lewisach get loose from Lewis. It talks a little bit about some of the 15th century medical practices in the Hebrides, which I won't go into. I'll just say that the main verb in that sentence is to gag, and not in a fun way with the thing in your mouth. But anyway, the song is called Avishki and Hamish, or Son of James, Son of John. We effectively refer to it as My Two Dads. So here's My Two Dads in Gaelic. Sorry, here we go.
Haddo skulen mahe Ifarallyo, Ifarallyo Hablar fiva fi med muljanov Hi-ho, hi-di-ho, hi-ele, hi-ho Hi-di-ho, ro-a-hu, hi-ho.
Have you ever seen them juggle?
You thought they were out of tune before.
So now we've got lovely couple of tunes here. One of them was, the first one actually, was written by a former member of the band, Mr. Gavin Marwick, a wonderful fiddle player and composer from Edinburgh. And Cantrip's been going a long time. I joined in 2021?
Something like that.
You've got to say it like that, 2021?
Well, yeah, I mean, nobody's quite sure that year happened, right?
Yes, that's right. It will forever be known as 2021. We're in 2025 now, it's very definite. So, you know, some bands break up, others change lineup, and Cantrip has changed lineup over the years. And Gavin was one of the founder members, I believe, of Cantrip.
Just post-founder.
No, yes, not just post-founder.
It's kind of like modern art and postmodern art. And
So, but he, Gavin wrote this after a trip to Norway, after a trip to the Hardanger region of Norway, a very beautiful region of a very beautiful country, and it's got lots of lovely fjords.
Lovely
and,
lakes.
yes, indeed. And they even have their own special kind of fiddle there called the Hardanger, or Hardangerfelle. And that kind of fiddle has a lot of sympathetic strings running kind of through the bridge under the fingerboard, so these strings kind of ring in sympathy.
It's nice to have sympathy while you're playing.
It is, absolutely. Very sympathetic fiddle. Tell it all your woes.
So rarely get it, you know.
And so the music from that region is very based around that fiddle. So it's very ringy, lots of droning, lots of kind of can be kind of hypnotic. So he wanted to evoke that in this next tune. It's called Hardanger Fjord. And then we follow that with a great tune by Tommy Potts, a very influential Dublin fiddle player. And it's called a very idiosyncratic player. And it's called The Liffey Banks. So I hope you enjoy them. May we suggest a pairing of the Petit Bleu with this very rich, dark, kind of, yes, lovely.
Rich, dark, and earthy as well.
And earthy, yes. So.
If you can't tell, we've tried them all.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much indeed. Did it get warm? I'm not sure. So, another set of jigs for you now. Mixture of really relatively recent and very, very old. The first tune is, well, okay, for a given value of recent, the first tune is one I wrote about 25 years ago. It's more recent than some. This is traditional music. It's a tune I wrote years ago. You know, it's one of my favorite things when you get to the section of the book that explains what the title's about. Obviously, if it's a history book, that's less of a challenge, but it's something I like very much indeed. And with that in mind, this tune is called the Cantrip. It's the Scots word, means a magic spell, piece of mischief. I was very excited when I first found that out, so I wrote this tune. And then way back into the mists of time, for some old Gaelic pipe jigs. Yep. Stonehenge. No. So of the old ancient traditional ones, the first one is called Cailín Fin, which translates from the Gaelic as "We Fair Kelly," and it's the tune to a song that the words of the song are they're mixed emotionally. No, they're not. They're very monothematic emotionally. It's about a woman who's sitting at home while her fellow's off out gambling and drinking and having fun. It's not a happy song at all. And we follow that with a tune that, well, I don't know. It's what I took out to Swirling. It's called. Isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is indeed. Yeah.
Which translates from the Gaelic as "You will come home with me." Which, as chat-up lines go, is on the aggressive side of charming. I'm not entirely sure if I want to say it's happier or not. But
I've heard worse.
well, yes.
Not directed at me, but
And then finish up with another relatively recent one, Ian's Jig, to finish. But we do have a very old tune welded onto Ian's Jig, a slow air, a very unhappy slow air, written from the point of view of a soldier dying on the field of battle after the Battle of Sheriffmuir. A tune that, much though I kind of want it to be called "I'll Be All Right in a Minute," it's not. It's called "I Will Return to the Cattle Folds of Kintail."
And speaking of returning home and you know, you will come home with me and all that kind of nonsense. If you've enjoyed the music tonight, and obviously we hope you have, and you would like to take us home with you, you can in sort of plastic digital form. We do have some CDs over there for sale. I think we do anyway. If not, we have download cards or IOUs, you know, some old unused checks, you know, some bank account lists of bank account numbers if you're interested in that kind of thing. Should probably stop there. So yeah, come see us after the show and we'll set you up, and you have full control over the volume, which can include zero if you like. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you very much. The time has come for the moment that I know you've all been waiting for. Sort of something happens often at this point in our sets, especially if it's a one-setter, where people's faces start to kind of change, like especially if you didn't know what you were getting into, and
At least that's the way we see it from up here at this time of night. We're kind of
we've sort of kind of picked up the message that like something in our set needs to change. So we kind of went into the archives and kind of did a bunch of deep research and looked far and wide for a happy Scottish song.
We found it.
Yes, I think actually we can say with a decent amount of expertise at this point that this is the happy Scottish song.
Actually, he's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
What? This is a song, it's actually an Old Scots poem that's been put to music by none other than Tony Cuff. And it's called Say Will We Yet. Do you guys like to sing? Would you help us? Yeah? I like that enthusiasm. Thank you. You want to learn the words? You're good. You're professional. All right.
Just sing what's in your heart.
Yes. So, okay, repeat after me. We'll give it a minute. Okay. Say will we yet? That's it. That's all you need to know. So it goes, say will we yet, say will we yet. You repeat the last line of whatever verse came before, and then say will we yet. So we didn't have any Gaelic speakers. Do we have any Scots speakers in the audience? No? All right, well, just whatever. The verses are in Scots, but just get through, figure it out. It's going to be fine. La-di-la-di-la, blah-di-blah-di-blah. It's going to be great. So it sounds like this. And say will we yet, and say will we yet. The last line of the verse before, and say will we yet. Want to try it? And say will we yet, and say will we yet. The last line of the verse before, and say will we yet. That was fabulous. I think they'll be able to hear you on the live stream. Make sure of it. All right, here's our happy Scottish song, Say Will We Yet.
There are other people watching? What's that? There are other people watching?
1, 2, 3, hop. Let the wind take the cares of this life on its back. For our hearts to despondency we never will submit. And we take been provided for, and say will we yet. Here we go. And say will we yet, and say will we yet. For we take been provided for, and say will we yet. Here's a health to the farmer, and prosper his plow, rewarding his heart and toil all the year through. For it's seed time and it's harvest we ever will get. For we'll abandon the providence, and say will we yet. And say will we yet, and say will we yet. For we'll abandon the providence, and
say, well, we
So fill up a tankard of nappy brown ale. It'll comfort a heart and enliven a tale. And will aye be the merrier the longer that we sit. For we drank together many's the time, and say will we yet. Let the glass keep its course and go merrily round. For the sun will always rise when the moon it has gone down. When the house is spinning round about, there's time enough to eat it. When we fell, we aye got up again and say, will we yet? And say, will we yet?
and say, well, we hurt.
When we fell, we aye got up again and say, well, we had.
And say, well, we had, and say, well, we had. For we take been provided for, and say, well, we had.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Lovely singing. Lovely singing.
That's always the best barometer of an audience, especially at the end of the night. Were you paying attention and you didn't sing on that chorus? You did great. You're a very attentive audience. I appreciate that. Thank you. Great singing.
Yeah. And now it's the moment you've really been waiting for. It's the last number. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. You sound vaguely disappointed, which is a good sign. So that's what we aim for at Cantrip concerts. Mildly disappointed. There can be no higher praise. So, thank you very much for coming out and spending your evening with us. We know you have a great many choices when spending your evening, and so thanks for coming out here. And big thanks as well to the Hermit Wood Winery here for having us. Thank you very much. Up in the loft. Big round of applause for Chris fighting the forces of evil in the wires as well. And thank you all for coming out here. We're going to finish up here with another set of tunes, starting off with a Romanian tune. For this pairing, we recommend something that's been brewed in a plastic bottle out of potatoes. And haven't tried that one yet, have you? No. So we've
No, it's because it melted the plastic bottle.
so
No, that was the heat from the engine when we were trying to distill it. That was...
so yes, a Romanian tune to kick off with, and then it deteriorates from there. So it's a tune we affectionately call the Weird Set. Thanks very much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks.
Thank you, folks.